Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Before I begin today, a big thank you to the Shepherd of Slaanesh for the virtual gift voucher. Man, that is an appropriate one for today. Huge thank you my friend for the support, it is truly appreciated, thank you. But on to today. So Night Lord's Week is now underway, and today we discuss the advances of the Ruinous Powers as they come to claim their piece of the Night Lords. General spoiler warning to begin, and a specific one for the novel Soul Hunter by ADB. As always, I really recommend you read the story for yourself first, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. Not only that, we help to support the great Games Workshop and Black Library, because without them we don't have this amazing lore to talk about. I will put a link in the description as always. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Now, the history of the Night Lords is something that's always felt destined to end as enemies of the Imperium. From the very beginning, Conrad Kurz was at odds with his brother Primarchs, who shunned him and his legion for their method of war. Their use of overt and excessive violence used to terrify populations into surrender was something Conrad's brothers could simply not abide. But the simple fact was, the 8th Legion produced results, and they most certainly had the backing of the Emperor of Mankind. But as it was, the Night Haunter slipped into madness, and the excesses of his legion continued to grow, culminating in the destruction of Nostromo, and the 8th Legion themselves becoming renegade, before even the Horus Heresy had begun. And despite this slide to the side of traitors, the Night Lord's gene seed has always remained remarkably pure. Indeed, it could be said they simply remain true to their nature. However, all this is not to say the Ruinous Powers have not taken their toll on the warbands of the Night Lords. The gods of chaos are greedy beings, and they seek any followers of strength to further their cause. And we get to witness such an event when the Night Lord's prophet known as Talos, aka the Soul Hunter, is betrayed by none other than Abaddon, the War Master. Refusing Abaddon's request to join the Black Legion, Talos quickly finds out that the War Master does not take no for an answer, and he is in league with others who are more persuading. Awakening to nothing but pitch black, Talos struggles to regain his bearings. The darkness is unnatural, even for a son of Kurz. The very air prickles his skin, making him realise he's no longer in his armour, wearing nothing but a simple tunic. And on top of that, his wounds are healed. Something quite clearly is not right. He does not have to wait long for an answer, as a voice breaks the darkness, his own. He now stands before a reflection of himself, and yet somehow not himself. This reflection wears his armour, except in removing his helm, his face is twisted. His eyes, instead of the pure black of Nostromo, are a strange silver, and a mark of the gods is branded upon his forehead. Talos refuses to believe that this could be his fate, nothing more than a slave to the Ruinous Powers. That is no future for a true son of the Night Haunter. This is a demon and nothing more. A true god certainly wouldn't waste its time with but one mortal being. But here's where things get really interesting. His reflection replies, "I turn my eyes to 1,000,000,000 souls with each passing moment. It is the nature of a god to exist in such a way. Man, I love that description. 1 trillion souls every second. The insidious reach here of the dark powers. Talos is truly conversing with an avatar of one of the ruinous powers. But before the conversation can continue any further, this reflection tells Talos to be silent, for the others come. And with that, 3 more figures appear encircling Talos. No matter how much he looks to them, they remain out of his view. 4 figures for 4 gods. The 4 gods of chaos. Slaanesh, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Khorne. Man, I love scenes like this. These are the kind of moments in the lore that are just fascinating. Immediately you get so many questions spring into your mind. Would the gods use Talos for Abaddon's benefit? Or their own? How do they know when the others approach? And do they always know? How much interaction do the gods have with each other? And could there ever be a day where when the avatars of the Chaos Gods are summoned, perhaps an avatar of the Emperor could crash the party, trying to redeem the soul that Chaos is seeking to corrupt? Man, how awesome would that be? By the Emperor himself, I hope we get to see that. These are the kind of questions that just race through my mind with moments like this. But back to the story. With each of the gods now present, the first figure names themselves, the one who thirsts, Slaanesh. And this is what they offer. Talos opened his eyes to a battlefield he claimed, heart and soul. The enemy, the Imperial army, was reduced to a graveyard of wrecked tanks and corpses that reached from horizon to horizon. He stood above his warriors as they kneeled before him, feeling the pleasant sting of some vicious new battle chemical stimulant flooding his veins. He was wounded, for there were cracks in his swollen armour, where reddish ichor flowed down his warplate. These wounds, great rents and rips in his flesh, open to the chill air of the battlefield, ached with a pleasure so intense, he cried his thanks to the stars above. Was this what it was, to be a Primarch? To laugh at wounds that would destroy even an Astartes? To feel war as an amusing diversion, while crushing 1,000,000 enemies under the might of invincible armies? Perhaps this was what the Night Haunter had felt. This exhalation. Blood-slick claws tore fresh rents in his cheek as he scratched himself, laughing at the delicious pain. Pain itself became a joke to those who could never die. Prince Talos, his troops were shouting. No, not shouting. Worshipping. And this is the offer of Slaanesh. As always, the law of vanity, glory, indulgence and pleasure. The gift of excess. And it makes sense to me that Slaanesh, of all the gods, would seek to claim the Night Lord's Legion. The mutilation of their victims, the exhilaration of fear. These are certainly qualities the god would find appealing. Talos here, however, is not swayed by the offer, and he turns away from the aspect of himself under Slaanesh's thrall, the god offering a parting barb that one of his squadmates has already fallen to the temptation, and as much as Talos objects, a part of him already knows it to be true. Moving on to the next, Talos turns to the next reflection, seeing all his armour in the original colours of the chapters he'd scavenged it from, a rainbow of Imperial chapters. The face this time mostly unchanged, save for one symbol tattooed on his cheek. This was the Changer of Ways. Talos's own former captain, the Exalted, was already under the sway of this god, and now it was time for Talos to hear his call. Power. This was the first sensation that drummed from his twin hearts, as though they pushed strength itself through his body with each dull beat. This was not the laughable power of blithe immortality and pleasure, but something altogether more familiar. He turned his head to regard the others on the command deck. The Atramentar, all 8 of them, knelt before him. Beyond them, the bridge crew worked their stations, each and every one a human with a servitor aid, all working diligently. He gestured to the Terminators abasing themselves before him. Rise. They rose, taking their places flanking his throne. As clear as the sound of his own breathing within his battle helm, as real as his own red-bathed sight, he felt the sudden surety that one of the Atramentar would speak. It would be about the Exalted's punishment. Lord, growled Abraxas, the warrior closest to the throne, the Exalted awaits your judgment. He knew then, before he even spoke, that the Exalted would break under 38 night cycles of physical and psychic torture. The Atramentar could provide the former. Talos himself would provide the latter. Mark my words, brothers, Talos said. He will not last 40 nights under our care. The 8 Terminators nodded, knowing he spoke the truth, knowing he had foreseen it in the winds of fate. The whispers began. They thought he couldn't hear them. The whispers about his new power, about 10th Company's resurging strength. Let them praise him in whispers. Talos relaxed into the command throne, letting his thoughts drift into the infinity of what was yet to come, feeling the skeins of fate like 1,000 threads under his fingertips. Now the gift of knowing fates to come is a rather interesting one here, as Talos already has the gift of foresight inherited from his Primarch. And while I understand Tzeentch's interest in Talos particularly, the Night Lord's Legion as a whole is a surprising one to me. They certainly don't have much in common with Tzeentch's main followers in Magnus and the Thousand Sons. Curzon Magnus actually had a strong dislike for each other. I would have thought a more sorcerous legion such as maybe the Word-Bearers would be higher up on Tzeentch's wish list. But Talos of course rejects the offer, believing his own gift of foresight to be pure, and thus he turns away to the third figure. This one, bloated, sickly, covered in flies, of course needs no introduction, as the avatar of Nurgle. And you might think Nurgle wouldn't have any interest in the Lords of Night, and well, you'd actually be right, as it shakes its head slowly, telling Talos he has no use for him, and he has no desire to wield the power he offers. This avatar of Nurgle is merely here as the ritual calling his attention worked. And I don't know what's more surprising here, honesty from chaos, or the fact you can actually get the attention of the gods themselves with a ritual. Not just a mere demon, but a facet of the gods themselves. Although admittedly there's trillions of such interactions taking place at any given moment. Although how many, I wonder, involve all 4 ruinous powers. The point that this also reveals, however, perhaps even inadvertently, is that on some level, no matter how deep inside or how minuscule, is that Talos must have a desire for the gifts of Slaanesh and Tzeentch, and thus all of those who fall to chaos do so out of their own subconscious desires. The fourth and final reflection is the most different and changed yet. His face a mess of burns, scars and bionics. His armour dyed a dark red, and a barely bound fury coursing through the body as it struggles to remain still. I am Karnath, it states, a name all too familiar for Talos, as yet another of his brothers is already under its sway, bringing blood for the blood god and skulls for his throne. Now this offer is interrupted before Khorne can reveal its power, as Talos awakens back to the mortal world. But it really opened your eyes to just how much the traitor legions have truly become manipulated by the gods of chaos. Even ones such as the Night Lords, who never worshipped the Pantheon and sought only to fight the Long War to bring down their former emperor. For every defiant legionary like Talos, there is another already under Chaos's sway. It's a fascinating showcase of the ruinous powers at work and the weakness of greed that beats in the heart of men, even ones of an enhanced nature. If you've never read Soul Hunter or the Night Lords trilogy as a whole, I highly recommend it, guys. You don't have to be a Night Lords fan, because the story ADB has crafted here really draws you into the world and characters. The balance of this former legion as the warbands vie for power on the edge of extinction, and Astartes grow resentful of their former glories, while others battle to remain true to the lessons of the Night Haunter. You'll get a view and understanding of not only the Night Lords themselves in their life after the heresy, but life as a whole amongst a warband of a traitor legion amid the world of 40k. But as always, guys, what do you think? Why do you think at least 3 of the 4 gods are seeking the patronage of the Night Lords? And does the nature of those in midnight clad endear them to one god more than the other? Do you believe like me that Slaanesh is perhaps the favourite? Or do you lean towards Tzeentch or Khorne? Or perhaps even Nurgle? And just what do you think the Blood God may have offered? Could his offering been more tempting to one such as Talos? And an interesting question is, do you think the Ruinous Powers are here for their own intentions, or they truly would have gifted the Night Lords to the command of Abaddon? As much as Abaddon may be the chosen, I find it hard to believe the gods of chaos give him everything he seeks. And just what is it about the Night Lord's heritage, the legacy of the Night Haunter, that makes so many of the Night Lords resistant to the call of the Ruinous Powers? As always, guys, leave your thoughts in the comments below. I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers. Your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all tomorrow as Night Lords Week continues.